Philosophy and Current Issue by Group 7. First is ideology. What is ideology? And what is the related to the philosophy? Ideology is a set of beliefs or opinion of a group or an individual of people in a way to thinking and the way for looking at the world. Ideology is one of the items for mental and physical needs of the individual. Individual needs for ideology will form the society that will use ideology in their life, such as for political ideology, social ideology, economic ideology, for the entire human history. Everyone has a specific goal in their life. In order to achieve this goal, a set of ideas need to provide a guidance, similarly in the collective life of a group or a country. People struggle collectively based on common ideas. This collective thinking is called a national ideology.
I believe that everyone is familiar with the word ideology, but if you want to look into what it means, even the most professional people don't know how to interpret the definition of ideology. I believe everyone is very sensitive to impression of the word, very political and very incredible. I feel that this concept is very far away from us, and this has caused many people to misunderstand. So today I want to interpret what is the challenges of contemporary ideology from the perspective of ordinary people with the correct thinking. We know that ideology is not inherent in the human brain, but derived from social existence. All we know that determines the material form is material sense. We can also call it material determinism. For example, the sea power theory was born in the United Kingdom and the United States, and China prefers to close the country. There is an ideology challenge to the economy. 7 or 8 years ago, there was some training institutions in China to get everyone to worship the credit card life of Western countries. But there was out of China's economic system. China is a developing country and interest rates are high, so the cost of capital is not low. Therefore, the type of wealth game in Europe and the United States will not work in China. And the content of this kind of training is basically to let everyone set up a bunch of credit cards to catch out each other. As a result, the fast-paced wealthy businessman who participated in the training quickly went bankrupt. This is ideology of wealth that does not respect objective facts. So, ideology is a kind of cognition. You need to think about what environment are you in, what are you going to do, and what do you want to achieve. It can be said that ideology is everywhere, but objective facts must be respected. Once this is done, the morphological and ideological challenges faced will naturally be greatly reduced. Okay, right now we know what is the challenges of contemporary ideologies. But what is postmodernism? The definition of postmodernism means a number of trends or movements in the arts and the literature developing in the 1970s in reaction to or rejection of the dogma, principles, or practice of established modernism, especially a movement in agriculture and the influence of the international style, and encouraging the use of elements from historical informal styles, and often playful illusion, decoration, and complexity.
Modernism Postmodernism is a series of cultural movements that originated from the Enlightenment in the late 19th to the early 20th century. Modernism wasn't a movement that only happened in the literary world, it happened in the art world in general, in architecture, anthropology, and even the music world. The important features to understand with modernism is that the whole idea of the modernist movement was making it new. It can be defined as a radical change of thought away from the Enlightenment that focused on looking at logic, rationale, and also science. The modernists were extremely excited by the potential of capitalism and industry and materiality, and they embraced that kind of change. And what modernism celebrated most prominently was the liberation that they felt from the social sciences. And that reflected in their literary writings. Modernists were all very different. They all had different political agendas. All modernist writers are very different. However, the fact that they all wrote in the same context. And although they had different objectives to their writing, they all secretly held the same hope for a universal truth. Modernists all hoped for was discovering a universal truth, a universal march that they all went along with to create an egalitarian society. Modernist writers rejected realism, and they can be characterized by a hierarchical, determinative, organized nature of logic. And they were highly influenced by the individual consciousness, and they believed that by building and understanding the depth of yourself, you were able to move towards a more universal and unified answer. In the in-depth analysis of the individual subject to understand and determine and find a worldview that was applicable to everybody. Postmodernism isn't a rejection of modernism per se, but it is a critique of it. The postmodernist movement came after the Second World War. Writers in the postmodernist period, or writers who are writing in a postmodernist style, are those who are writing in a post-traumatic stress disorder. The postmodernist period was essentially a shell shock from everything that happened around them. And although not fully disconnected from the modernist period, what the postmodernists looked at was a society which lacked a central hierarchy and was chaotic in its state, was still manipulated and monopolized by bureaucratic power. And this is what the postmodernists wanted people to wake up to. For they saw danger in the way that the modernists applied their central hierarchy. You see, what they saw from the idea of having a universal answer was actually very fascist in its movement, trying to make everybody think the same way. The postmodernists rejected the idea that there wasn't universal truth, that everything was actually subjective, that there was no morality or even rationality in the world, and actually embraced local narratives and the diversity of them. But however, rather than give a solution to it, they essentially deconstructed the world around them. And the modernists celebrated the potential of a new capitalist society. The postmodernists were drowning in it. They saw it as destroying our own human nature.
Next, we are going to talk about relativism in a postmodernism.
The A to Z of isms. Relativism. Moral relativism is the view that what's right in one culture may be wrong in another, and that there's no way of judging between the two. It's all relative. There's no absolute truth of the matter. Different strokes for different folks, and that's okay. Imagine a Martian landing on Earth. She would see that people behave differently in different places. They've got different moral rules, different social customs. What's right in one location is wrong in another. She might well conclude that there's no such thing as the right way to live or the right thing to do for everyone at all times. It's all a matter of cultural norms.
Okay, this video shows what is relativism. So for me, I think there's no absolute relativism. And personally, I think that human behaviors constrained by some basic common principle. For example, some places people believe that eating the diet is the utmost respect for the diet. However, some cultures, on the contrary, consider that it is not moral. And they think burying the diet is utmost respect for the dice. So, seen from the outside, the culture is relativism and different. However, they are also following the same principle, which is they would like to utmost respect for the dice. Like the Paul Bloom side summarize the basic moral rules. The first one is cannot hurt others, and the two is integrity, and the three is controlling sexual behavior, and the four is share with others, and the five is sense of justice, and the six is protect child, and seven is responsibility, and the eight is respect for the diet. And that's all my part. Thank you.
Next, we will moving on to postmodern relativism. Postmodern relativism includes three main things. The first is art and culture. The second is technology and economy, and the third is politics and administration. Implication of postmodernism relativism based on people. People should not be afraid of their government. Government should be afraid of their people. Based on Rothschild, all the wars and politicians will look up and shout, "Save us!" And I'll look down and whisper no. Based on Catholic good. Catholic good people have absolutely no regard for law or social structures, and will preserve what they think is right at any cost. Their lives are guided by what they think is right and good, and they have little time for those who see the world any differently. They are also willing to do bad things to bad people. And Thomas Jefferson says, "A Bill of Rights is what the people are entitled to against every government and what no just government should refuse or rest in inference." Postmodern relativism, life without sense and truth, tends to lead to the negative in some areas such as religion, ethics, psychology, sociology, and political economics. And this table shows how what our society looks like. It's moving forward.
Hey there, thank you for watching our video. I'll see you guys